She didn't plan to hide under a stranger's table, especially not the one belonging to the most dangerous man in the city. But when her toxic ex stormed into the restaurant, Lena dove for cover and ended up kneeling between the Mafia boss's legs. He didn't move, didn't speak, just placed a calm hand on her head and said to the waiter, "Make sure she's not disturbed." The rain hadn't stopped for hours. It beat against the glass walls of Rossetti's, the most expensive restaurant in the city, a place that smelled of power, not food. Lena moved fast between tables, still in her gray uniform even after her shift had ended. She just wanted to collect her tips and leave. But then she saw him. Derek, same leather jacket, same smirk that used to make her stomach twist. Now it only made her pulse race in panic. "Lena!" His voice cut through the piano music. A few heads turned. Her heart slammed. She stepped back, eyes darting for an exit. But he was already moving through the crowd. So she did the first thing her body told her to do. She ran. Her heels slipped on the polished floor as she ducked behind a corner booth, then froze. Someone was sitting there. Black suit, gold cufflinks, no expression. He didn't look up from his glass of wine, and before Lena could whisper sorry, Derek's voice came closer. "Lena, come on. I just want to talk." Without thinking, she dropped lower, pressing herself under the table, knees on the marble, breath locked. Her shoulder brushed against an expensive pair of shoes. The man finally spoke, voice calm, deep, dangerous. "Stay still." Lena didn't dare move. She could see only the hem of his coat, the faint reflection of a pistol under the table's shadow. Derek's footsteps stopped just meters away. "Sir," he said to the man above her, "you seen a woman come by? Blonde, 5'4", probably in uniform?" A slow sip, a pause, then the man's voice. "No one here but me." Derek lingered, eyes narrowing, then turned away. The door chime rang as he left. Lena exhaled so sharply it made the man glance down for the first time. Their eyes met, her fear, his stillness. The silence between them hummed like static. He leaned slightly forward, resting one hand on the table edge, the other near his glass. "Interesting hiding place," he murmured. "I'm sorry," she whispered, scrambling to stand. "I didn't—" He lifted a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. "Don't apologize for surviving." For a moment, she just stared, unsure whether he was saving her or studying her. Then he reached for his coat, stood, and dropped a single folded napkin beside her. "Next time," he said quietly. "Run faster." By the time she blinked, he was gone. All that remained was the faint scent of expensive cologne, and the small white napkin in her hand marked with one name, Damien Russo. The same name every news channel whispered when people disappeared. Derek's silhouette reappears through the rain-streaked window, watching her from outside. Rain blurred Derek's outline until it vanished. For a second, Lena thought it was over, until the door opened again. The bell chimed soft, harmless. But it wasn't Derek this time. Two men in black suits entered, dripping rain on the marble. One held her coat, the other a folded umbrella. They didn't speak, just nodded toward the alley door. "Mr. Russo requests a moment," one said. Her pulse jumped. The napkin in her hand suddenly felt heavier than paper. Outside, the city lights bled through the storm. A long black car waited at the curb, engine humming like a held breath. The back door opened by itself. Damien sat inside, sleeves rolled, tie gone, a quiet danger in the space around him. He looked at her through the rain. "Get in before your ex grows a new idea." Lena hesitated, but Derek's voice echoed faintly from the next street, shouting her name. She slid into the car, the door sealed behind her with a thud that felt final. For a while, neither spoke. The city slid past in streaks of gold and gray. He broke the silence first. "You always hide under tables when you're scared?" "I usually avoid Mafia tables," she muttered. A low laugh, almost disbelief. "So you know who I am?" "Everyone does." She stared out the window. "That's why I shouldn't be here." He studied her profile. "You shouldn't have been in that restaurant either." She turned, eyes flashing. "I work there." That silenced him for a moment. He shifted, resting his arm on the seat edge. "What does he want from you, this Derek?" "Control," she said. "He likes knowing I'm still afraid." Damien's jaw tightened, then relaxed. "Fear's useful, keeps people alive. Sometimes it just keeps them small." He looked at her differently then, like he'd heard something unexpected. The car slowed as they reached an intersection. Outside, a bar's neon flickered. Through the glass, she saw Derek again, arguing with a bouncer, wild gestures slicing the air. Before she could react, Damien picked up his phone. One sentence. "Handle him." The car pulled away, smooth, silent. Lena swallowed. "What did you just do?" "Prevented a problem." His tone carried no apology. "I didn't ask you to." "You didn't have to." He met her gaze. "You asked the moment you hid under my table." The car turned down a quieter street. A wrought iron gate loomed ahead, opening automatically. Mansion lights blinked through the mist. She stared. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe," he said. "Until I decide what to do with you." Her throat tightened. "And if I don't agree?" He smiled faintly. "Then you shouldn't have trusted the man whose name was on that napkin." The car stopped. A bodyguard opened her door. The rain had stopped, but the air still felt charged, like the city itself was waiting. Inside the iron gates, somewhere beyond the hedges, came a faint scream, cut short, replaced by silence. Damien didn't even flinch. The scream faded as quickly as it came, swallowed by the rain-slick night. Lena froze on the gravel path, heart pounding against her ribs. Damien's guards stood still. No reaction, no concern. She turned toward him. "What was that?" He didn't even glance back. "A message being delivered?" The words chilled her worse than the rain. He led her through the open doors of a stone mansion, grand, silent, too clean to feel human. Polished marble, warm light, faint scent of tobacco and old money. A fire burned in a long hallway hearth. Damien walked ahead, unhurried. "You said you work at Rossetti's," he began. "Yes." "Your ex still there?" "Probably drinking off my paycheck." He stopped in front of her. "Do you owe him?" She met his eyes. "Only in scars." For a second, something flickered behind his stillness. Anger, or maybe recognition. He motioned toward the parlor. "Sit." She did, half expecting questions, half expecting chains, but instead a butler appeared with a towel and tea. Damien sat opposite her, removing his cufflinks with slow precision. "You're not the type who hides easily," he said. "I wasn't hiding," she replied softly. "I was surviving." That earned the smallest nod. He leaned forward. "Tell me something, Lena. When he found you tonight, what would have happened?" She looked at her shaking hands. "He would have dragged me outside and no one would have stopped him." Damien's voice dropped low. "He won't touch you again." Her stomach twisted. "You say that like you decide who breathes." He tilted his head. "I do." The fire cracked between them, throwing gold light across his face. He wasn't threatening her. He was stating fact. "Why?" she asked. "Why would someone like you care about someone like me?" Damien smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Care is the wrong word." "Then what is it?" He stood, walking to the window. Rain trailed down the glass, neon reflections dancing against his silhouette. "A habit. When I see something cornered, I remove the corner." Lena's breath caught. That scream outside, was that Derek? He turned just enough for her to see the shadow of a grin. "You asked too many questions for someone trembling in my chair." She rose to her feet, defiant now. "Then stop pretending you're my savior." He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the cologne, clean and dark. "I didn't save you," he said quietly. "I claimed you." Her pulse thundered. "You don't own me." His gaze softened like her words amused him. "Not yet." Thunder cracked outside. The lights flickered once, and in that flash she saw movement, one of his men dragging something heavy toward the back gate. Her breath, hitched, Damien's voice almost a whisper as he looked at her. "You can leave if you want, Lena. The gates are open. But if you walk out, you'll see what loyalty costs in my world." Lena didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because of the question echoing in her head. What does loyalty cost in his world? By morning, she was gone from the mansion, slipping out before the guards noticed. Or maybe they did and just let her go. The city air hit cold, sharp, honest. For a few hours, she let herself believe it was over, until the envelope arrived at Rossetti's. Plain white, her name written in an elegant hand. Inside, an invitation. Dinner. Tonight, 8 p.m. DR. Her stomach twisted. Every instinct said no. But the memory of that night, the calm in his voice, the terrifying grace with which he moved through chaos, pulled her somewhere between fear and curiosity. By 8, she stood outside the restaurant again. No uniform this time, just a dark dress she hadn't worn in years. Rain streaked her hair. She almost turned back when the valet nodded. "He's waiting." Damien Russo didn't do normal dinners. He owned the room the moment she stepped in. The same chandelier-lit restaurant, but emptier now. Tables cleared except for one near the window. A single glass of wine sat waiting beside him. He looked up as she approached. "You came. You didn't really give me a choice," she said. He smiled slightly. "I gave you freedom. You spent it coming back to me." She wanted to deny it, but his calm made denial sound childish. He poured her a drink. "To survival," he said. "To manipulation," she countered. He laughed, quiet and real. "Touché." For a moment, the silence between them wasn't heavy. It was strange, electric. He asked about her son, her job, her dreams, and somehow, every question felt like an X-ray. "You talk like a man who knows everything," she said finally. "I listen like one," he replied. Then the door opened. A ripple of unease crossed his face before he masked it. Another man entered. Heavier, louder, wearing confidence like perfume. "Vince," Damien said without warmth. "You weren't invited." Vince smirked. "You don't invite me. I show up." His eyes slid to Lena. "And who's this? New decoration?" Lena's pulse jumped. Damien didn't look at her. He didn't need to. His voice dropped a note colder. "Careful." Vince chuckled, taking a seat at the next table. "Relax. I'm just saying. You're turning soft, Russo. First you clean up after that waitress, now you're feeding her?" The room went silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. Damien leaned back, gaze flat. The last man who spoke to her like that doesn't speak anymore. Vince raised his hands in mock surrender. "You always did confuse respect with fear." Damien smiled, slow and lethal. "They sound the same when you're on the ground." Lena sat frozen, caught between two storms that smiled like men. Vince's glass shattered on the floor. Not by accident, but from the bullet that passed clean through it. The sound was deafening, and Damien hadn't even moved his hand. The shot echoed through the restaurant like thunder in a church. Vince's smirk died first, replaced by the slow realization that the man across from him hadn't even blinked. Damien Russo still held his wine glass. Calm, steady, as if violence was merely punctuation. The entire staff froze in place. Lena didn't breathe. The bodyguard behind Damien stepped forward once, just enough to make Vince understand the difference between threat and warning. Vince swallowed hard, eyes darting to the shattered remains of his drink. "You missed." Damien's tone was soft. "I wasn't aiming for you." For a moment, no one moved. Then Vince stood, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You've changed, Russo. You used to end problems, not teach lessons." Damien placed his glass down gently. "Some problems learn faster when they walk away." Vince looked at Lena one last time, a glance heavy with mock pity, then turned and left, boots echoing on the marble. The door shut. Silence followed, thick and electric. Lena finally exhaled, her voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't have to do that." Damien looked at her, expression unreadable. "Didn't I?" "I could have handled it," she lied, his lips curved faintly. "You can't even lie like a criminal yet." She stood up, pushing the chair back. "I'm not part of this world, Damien." He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "You are now." Her breath caught. "Because I sat at your table?" "Because you survived under it," he said, "and I don't let survivors walk out unguarded." She stepped back. "That's not protection. That's possession." He stood too. Not in anger, but gravity. Maybe they're the same thing when the world hunts you. The truth hit her harder than fear. He wasn't defending her out of pity. He was protecting the part of himself that still believed in something innocent. "Why me?" she asked quietly. "You could have anyone sit across from you." He tilted his head. "They'd sit for me. You sit against me." Her heart pounded. He didn't mean romance. Not yet. It was about recognition. Two opposites caught in the same storm. Behind them, a waiter dared to move, clearing the broken glass with trembling hands. Damien didn't look away from her. "Go home," he said softly. "Tonight you'll be watched from a distance. Don't panic if you see shadows." She frowned. "You think that makes me feel safe?" "No," he said, "but it keeps you alive." He turned toward the window, the rain returning like applause. "And Lena." She paused at the doorway. His reflection in the glass was cold steel and quiet regret. "Don't think. Me. I don't save people. I just make sure they're still breathing when I need them." As she stepped out into the wet street, headlights flared. A car across the road idling, engine running. Inside, Derek sat behind the wheel, his face lit by a cigarette, watching, waiting. The street was almost empty except for the hum of Derek's engine and the soft hiss of rain against glass. Lena pulled her coat tighter, walking fast, the night's adrenaline still burning through her chest. For a second, she thought she imagined the car creeping forward behind her until the headlights brightened, reflecting in a puddle ahead. "Not tonight," she whispered, half prayer, half warning to herself. The car stopped. The door opened. Derek stepped out, the same smirk as always, a cigarette between his fingers. "Nice dinner, Lena. New boyfriend got a type?" She froze. "Go home, Derek." He laughed. "Home? You mean the one I paid for?" His voice sharpened. "You think you can run off with some gangster and I'll just watch?" Her throat went dry. "You don't own me." He took a step closer. "That's funny. He said the same thing once. You're precious, Damien. Thought I wouldn't find his little secrets." Her heart skipped. "What are you talking about?" Derek flicked the cigarette away, the ember hissing in a puddle. "Ask him why he buried a boy last year who wasn't his blood." Before she could react, another engine roared behind them. Black SUV, headlights off until it was too close to mistake. Derek spun. "You've got to be kidding me." The SUV stopped hard, door swinging open. Damien stepped out, rain sliding down his coat, face unreadable but eyes burning like they'd been waiting for this moment. "Get in the car, Lena," he said quietly. Derek laughed, backing up a step. "You can't keep her, Russo. You can buy loyalty, but love doesn't work that way." Damien didn't answer. His men moved fast, two behind Derek, one disarming him before he could blink. The cigarette dropped again, this time for good. Lena's voice broke through the chaos. "Stop! Please, don't!" The command froze Damien's hand mid-air. No one had ever said please to him like that, not out of fear, but conviction. "Let him go," she whispered. "If you hurt him, I'll never be free of either of you." For a long, dangerous moment, Damien said nothing. Then he turned slightly, a single gesture. His men released Derek. "Get out of this city," Damien said. "Tonight, or the next scream you hear will be your own." Derek didn't argue. He vanished into the rain like a bad dream dissolving at sunrise. The street fell silent again. Lena stood there shaking, looking at Damien. "You scare me." He met her eyes. "Good." "That wasn't a compliment," she said. "I know." For once his tone wasn't control. It was honesty. "You shouldn't be in this world, Lena. Everything I touch breaks." She stepped closer, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Then maybe stop breaking it." His jaw clenched, then softened. "You think it's that easy?" "No," she said. "But it starts somewhere, like not killing someone just because you can." A faint smile, real this time, curved his lips. "You think you've changed me?" She shook her head. "I think you remembered what it felt like to be human." Rain thickened, drumming against the cars, the street, their silence. He took off his coat and placed it gently over her shoulders. "You should go home." "Will I see you again?" she asked quietly. He hesitated. "Not if I can help it." She smiled, sad, knowing, and turned to leave. He watched her until she disappeared around the corner, swallowed by streetlight and rain. When his driver opened the door, Damien's reflection stared back at him in the glass. The same man, but something was gone from his eyes. He looked once toward the corner she'd vanished around and whispered, "Make sure she gets home safe, and keep her name off every list." The car pulled away, taillights glowing red through the storm. In the silence that followed, the city exhaled, and somewhere across town, in a tiny apartment that finally felt safe, Lena looked out her window and whispered, "Thank you for letting me breathe."